All right, YouTube. This is Voltaire Stapadelic. I'm doing another one of my Twitter Discourse videos. This is the second one. Um, this is just something that I've kind of had on my mind for kind of a while. As you can probably tell. Okay, so the this episode is going to be about white heritage because you always hear heritage, not hate. You always about the Confederate flag and all of those other kinds of stuff. Um, but I don't. There isn't any such thing as a white heritage. It's all a red herring to sort of use doublespeak to say, "Oh, I'm not racist." I'm just celebrating all the wonderful things that white people have done. So, as you probably be able to tell, I am a white person. Uh, uh, um, let's see. In descending order, it is uh, British, Italian, German, and just the rest is some kind of weird mix of Eastern European slash Russian, according to my parents. Um, and I just, there's Italian heritage, which I always find interesting. You can go back to ancient Rome or whatever. Um, and there's Italian pride parades. There's Italian food. There's a clear culture, history, and heritage there. And some of it's bad, and some of it's not as bad. It's a very complex, nuanced history of people. Um, you know, British people have a lot more dark in that history, but then you can also go way way back and be like, hey, maybe I'm descendant of people who, you know, built Stonehenge or whatever. I don't know, and I think that's kind of cool. And there's food, there's like music, there's a specific culture and history and heritage of British people, um, and but there isn't anything like that for white people. You know what I mean? There's no white Sylvania where all the white people came from, and that's how we're all connected. You know what I mean? Like Italians weren't even considered white until like the 90s or something. I guess I used to tell people I'm either 75 or 100% white, depending on your personal opinion of Italians. So it's not a real thing, you know. So, anyways, let's get to the argument that because this is gonna be somewhat of a long episode, I think. We're gonna start off with this tweet by Mindy Robinson, who I have no idea who that is. She says, "That's right. Keep equating being patriotic as being racist, using delusional comparisons and yada yada yada." Um, but Walter Bragman quote tweeted her saying, "Your banner photo is literally white pride." Um, to which uh, uh, Boomer replies, "Regardless of what color you are, it's not racist to be proud of your heritage. I'm white and proud, but expect my black and brown friends to be proud of who they are. I will never apologize for being white." This is something you have to be wary of. No one has ever asked her to apologize for being white. I've never ever had anyone ask me to apologize for being white. I mean, people might ask you to apologize for being like a dumb racist white person, but no one's ever asked anyone to apologize for being white. That's goofy and something that racist people just make up out of thin air. Um, to which Gaijin Girl 2004 says, "Race is nothing to be proud of. It's an arbitrary trait, not to mention one you did nothing to attain, nor is one race better than another. One can and should be proud of one's personal achievement, one's character, if worthwhile, but anything else is bluster." Which, to be honest, I kind of agree with. You can be proud of like what your grandparents or whatever did, but you didn't do that. You know what I mean? So you can't be like, oh, we invented the whatever. You know what I mean? And it's like, especially when it's just you say white people. Uh, and this lady says, I disagree, but it's everybody to their own. I'm proud of my own heritage. So I said, what specific heritage is that? What defines white heritage? Why are you proud of being white? I'm white, and I've never understood this. Then can you explain? Um, which you keep using that word. To be fair, she didn't say she was proud of being white. The larger point is not to have to apologize for being white, no more than a person of any other skin color should have to apologize for an immutable trait, as you said. But then, again, who has ever had to apologize for being white? Can you name one person that this has happened to me? To me, that sounds like a straw man. I guess I'm more responding to a lot of the people in the replies who are I've seen go straight to white pride and heritage, but I don't know what that is. Uh, so when you keep using responds with, I assume you're familiar with the disparaging term white privilege, which is just insane, Like, there was a time in my life when I was, a little more ignorant about stuff like this, and I would get a little touchy when people would say maybe white privilege or cisgender or whatever, you know what I mean? But it's just, it just comes from a place of ignorance, and maybe this is me being a little judgmental. Maybe this guy is young. I don't know, but I feel like I've grown up, and that's why I don't make those arguments anymore because I realize that they're wrong. Of course there's a white privilege. Of course the color of your skin, the situation of your birth, which shouldn't really affect, your opportunities and your outcome on life inherently, but it does. The police are nicer to you when you're white. It's easier to get a job when you're white. You know what I mean? And it's insane to me that people like this will just continuously try to claim that white privilege itself is a racist term. It's just a way of playing a victim, and not wanting to come to terms with the harsh reality that racism is real, and people who look like me benefit from it, including myself, and to try to uh, say that you are somehow exempt from that, because of whatever excuse. I mean, it's just lame. In my opinion, it's lame. Um, so I responded to that tweet saying, I don't find it disparaging in any way, nor is it a call to apologize for being white. It's about recognizing structural racism even when it means admitting to benefiting from it. It's not about feeling guilt, but empathy and a willingness to fight the status quo. I'm and so, no one really responded for a little while. So I said, I'm still fixated on this, and I don't know, but it seems like the right place to ask. There was a bunch of white pride people. They seemed like the kind of people that you would ask about what exactly does that mean. So I said, there's Irish pride, there's Italian pride parades, and all of the like. But as a white person, I've never felt that there's an inherent heritage to being white itself. I can't wrap my brain around the concept of white pride other than it being a rallying cry for races like the KKK. And growing up, I learned of my Italian heritage and a little bit about my British heritage, but white heritage, I don't see how that's a real thing. And he asked, please point out any structural racism today, and I will fight it alongside of you. He said, point out where there is any racism in America today, and I will fight it alongside of you. I almost didn't know what to even say to respond to that, because it is willful ignorance to sit here and claim that there isn't structural racism, particularly in the United States. I mean, that's the whole country was founded on that genocide, slavery. That is the tenet of this whole country. Um, I said I could point to the lopsided treatment of different communities by the police and the judicial system among the many ways that education, jobs, and basic things like food and transportation are often much worse in predominantly non-white, poor to middle class neighborhoods. It's dishonest to deny that there's racism from the police, courts, housing laws, hiring practices, all the way up to the president. I don't want to speak for people of color. I don't have those experiences, and it isn't my place to play expert, but there's a lot of good reading on it. I learned about it mostly from experiences, though. Talking to, hanging out with, working with, making art, and getting into adventures with people who have different experiences from me, not from reading articles or taking sociology classes. And I mean, I think that's kind of just a basic fact on life, you know. You go out and meet people who are different than you. You go talk to people who haven't had the same experiences as you, and you learn things. You learn a lot more than you can learn from, you know, some stupid article or some Fox News report or from, you know, your own assumptions. Um, and so I followed up again. I said, "Why do you think white is something to be proud of, and what specifically makes that patriotic?" Because remember the original tweet conflated patriotism with white identity. And he said I could easily answer that, but first, do you think all races have the right to be proud of their heritage? And I said, what makes white a race? What is white heritage? Why wouldn't you answer the question? Irish, Italian, French heritage, but white? What uniting factor is there that makes white an identity or heritage to be singularly proud of? That's the key point. What uniting factor is there? What thing have all white people had to struggle through together that would make being white its own identity? He says, what kind of semantics is this? I don't think he knows what semantics means. Should I say the same about Blackstone, Swahili, Zulu, Ashanti, Fonte? If I had to point to two big things that is white heritage, I would say Christianity and freedom. I'm not even going to read the last sentence because it's just. Black people can't point to one thing, so they're not a race. I mean, come on. That's the dumbest. This guy is trying to argue that he's not racist, but that he just believes in white pride, and that two things white people invented were freedom and Christianity. So this is gonna get interesting. Trust me. I said Christianity was not started by Christians, which is technically true, but I meant to say white people. But I think he understood that that's what I meant to say. I said, plus, there are plenty of non Christian white people. Do you not think Jewish people count as white? And freedom, what does that mean? Can you answer the question without self aggrandizing platitudes? Do you have a specific answer or no? Um, Yeah, and you know, then some other person, MAGA Katie, is jumping in, saying you took the words right out of my mouth. And I said, yeah, no attempt at actually answering the question. Then just dancing around the topic, deflecting, getting defensive, going, oh, we conquered the world on me. But who is we? What makes white something to be proud of? How is white a heritage? Does anyone know the answer to this problem? Is what the gift says. So MAGA Katie says white is a mixture of many heritage and cultures. For me, it's Swedish, British, Celtic, and Greek. I'm proud of all those heritages, but all in all, I have a white complexion. Just like blacks have a mixtures of different cultures, but they sum it up as being black. So, are you proud? This is my response. I said, okay. So, are you proud simply because you have a white complexion? I'm intrigued and fascinated with my German and Italian ancestry, but other than as a general aesthetic uh, adjective, I don't see how people identify purely as white and are proud of that. Because I agree, what we consider white today is a mixture of a lot of different things. It's a socio-political umbrella term, not a specific culture or history in and of itself. White people didn't invent the whatever. Some guy did, and likely had lots of uncredited workers helping. I mean, and then so Tracy says the same could be said for all races. You're mixing up the word race with ethnicity. I did answer the question. Christianity and freedom. I did answer the question. Heritage is a special set of traits or beliefs that define a culture. I named two. White and black are made up of different ethnicities, but not races unless they are mixed. Which I'm not sure what that is even. So I said Christianity and freedom are specific, unique traits to white people. Is that what you're saying? The one could argue black people in America had their identities and history stolen from them, from centuries of oppression, including the horrors of slavery, as well as the collective constant struggle to overcome all that makes to overcome all of that makes your comparison moot. I don't want to speak for black people, but I mean that is an argument that you could make. Um, so Amanda says, so typical of a leftist to patronize and infantilize black people. They don't have a heritage because of slavery. Tell that to all my friends. They know which countries they came from. They were also very well of the evil leftist who tries to keep them victims. And I said, so can you answer the question or not? Because that's such an obvious ploy from this very white person. Um, so, can you answer the question or not? What is white heritage? Why is white something to be proud of inherently? You're trying to derail the conversation and you're trying to speak for the experiences of black people. Context makes black pride and white pride different. Like I said before, there's no collective thing that white people have had to overcome that would make white its own specific history, culture, or heritage. I said white pride is racist because it comes from the oppression and celebrates colonialism, slavery, etc. No one has been able to convince me otherwise. Y'all point to heritage, but have failed to define what that is. Empty platitudes like freedom and Christianity do not count. Instead of trying to define your own professed beliefs, you just get defensive and say, I have an evil leftist ideology. And do I know you are, but what am I about racism? Which is a very common tactic with the alt right. It's the whole accuse the other side of that which you were guilty. It's the thing that they constantly do. I see it all the time. If I keep doing these type of videos, you're gonna see that sort of thing pop up a lot. Um, so Tracy comes back and responds to my tweet from earlier saying, so that would mean the black pride is racist too. If a race cannot be proud, then any type of ethnic pride would be racist. You simply don't make sense. Or if you were saying that any other race other than white can be proud, then you're the racist. I make perfect sense if you understand the topic is at hand. If what I'm saying isn't make sense to you, then read up some more. White pride is engaging in colonialism and oppression, not overcoming it. It's a fundamental difference. White heritage is not real. It's a dog whistle used by people who are too afraid to admit that they're racist, just like this person here. I'm not sure which one in the profile pic is Tracy, so excuse me if I say the wrong pronoun or whatever. Tracy comes back saying, European nations and the USA were founded and work on oppression. Dude, have you ever lived in another country? I have. Have you ever read our Constitution? Never in history was a document like that written, except by white nations. You're brainwashed. So they say that I'm brainwashed because I don't think that white nations, whatever that means, are the only ones to ever have freedom or a constitution. I quote tweeted them saying, with each new tweet, this person slips farther into more and more blatant white supremacy. All I was wanting was a definition of white heritage, and the question is impossible without overt racism. Uh, to which they responded, not supremacy, proud of my heritage. You don't really understand the definition of the words you use. I'm not superior to any race, just proud of what my forebears created. See, it's my right and yours to oppose it, thanks to those who created our government. So I asked the simple question, is America a white nation to you? To which Tracy says, The government that makes up the freedoms we enjoy was founded by mostly whites, but they created a system for all. It took some time, but to work, but has worked better than all else. And she says, or they say, I'm not again, I don't know which of the people in the picture it is. Um, I don't think that it's not an opinion. History proved it. You can't name one, can you? I think she's referring to black nations with constitutions. I don't know. I missed a tweet here. Um, the dictionary defines freedom. I don't have to. Freedom to act, worship, and speak as you please. Even uneducated people can vote. White majority countries were the first to do this. Like, I said the founding fathers owned slaves. She said, of course they did. Blacks in Barbary owned more white slaves than all of Europe and America combined, but only white majority nations eventually made it illegal. Study history. They tell me to study history while sitting here trying to claim that white people invented freedom and were the first people to have constitutions and free slaves. But it's free slaves from who? Uh, uh, from the white people. Like, what are you talking about? You know, like I can't just like kidnap somebody, lock them up in my house, and then release them, and then be like, "Oh, I saved you. Hey, you're welcome." It's ridiculous. I said, so she says, whites were the first people to make slavery illegal. And I said, which ones? What makes a white country? To which they respond, are you dense? Do you really need a definition of a white majority nation? Let's see. I learned fractions and percents in third grade. Time to end this conversation because you're a bot or a minor still in elementary school. So now I'm a bot because they don't know, they don't have a good answer and they're backed up against a wall. So I said, oof, you really just think that white people are the heroes in every story. You can't even define what white people means other than did all the good things. To which Tracy responds, and this is going to be pretty great. She says, not at all. I lived in Japan for 7 years and know tons of Asian champion stories. Just none that swayed the masses enough to make a political or revolutionary changes to usher in the same freedoms my ancestors created. So here, Tracy is touching on what people have called the model minority theory, where um, white people are okay with certain kinds of people of Asian descent as long as they can pass some kind of arbitrary assimilation threshold to be like kind of white-ish, and it's very racist towards Asian people because it perpetuates stereotypes that that they're good at math or what have you, and it's often used as a red herring to be like, oh, I'm not racist, I love Asian people or whatever. It's and so then that's supposed to like deflect from the fact that they're very racist against everybody. You know what I mean? Where they have like a favorite minority. So it's pretty on the nose that that's where that living in Japan is where this person jumped to. And then the kicker, my kids are one half Asian, so calling me a racist is pathetic. Which it's another thing that I see a lot. My girlfriend is black. My best friend is, whatever. My, kids are half Asian or Mexican. And it's like, I know people who say that their husband or mom, calls them the N word, and you can be sexually attracted to somebody and still racist towards them, and oftentimes racism manifests itself in some kind of fetishism. So, you know, just having people who aren't white in your friends group or in a romantic relationship or even in your immediate family doesn't necessarily immune people from being racist, sadly. Um, so, anyways, moving on. I said, why do you think the world needs white people to have freedom? To which Tracy says, it doesn't now, but obviously did 200 years ago. And I didn't really have anything else to say, at that point, I pretty much um, says it right there. You know, this person thinks that the world needed white people in order to become part of, in order for modern history to happen. Um, so I kind of just ignored that tweet. I just wanted to include it here just to show really how this conversation actually ended. And right before I muted this person, I said the fact that you think this is a relevant point about their kids being half Asian and having lived in Japan, the fact that you think this is a relevant point at all is hilarious and sad at the same time. The fact that you've lived abroad and are still this ignorant and racist makes it worse, not better. Um, which is something that does really baffle me. It really, really does baffle me. I mean, you're gonna go live abroad, and then you're gonna come back and be racist. You know, you're gonna go look at other cultures and then be like, "No, white people are still better." You're gonna look at ancient, like ancient advanced civilizations and be like, oh well, what they had doesn't count as like freedom or democracy or whatever. They didn't have PayPal or some bull. I don't know. It's yeah, it's pretty ridiculous and um, just blows my mind. That you know people will just always find an excuse to be racist, or to see themselves as better than other people on an inherent level. And when they don't really have anything else to point to, they're not good at anything, they haven't contributed anything. Um, Oftentimes it just manifests itself as racism, and they're just saying, okay, well, I gotta be better somehow. Maybe it's because I'm white. Um, yeah, it's sad. I don't feel sorry for these people though. Don't be a racist. You know what I mean? It's pretty easy not to be one. That's the moral of the story. Like I said, this is a pretty long video. I'm gonna end it here. Uh, yeah. I got some new music coming out pretty soon. There's a fully instrumental album that I'm coming out with next month called "There Are No Words." Look for that. You can hear 8919, both the regular and instrumental version. They're both on Spotify, so go listen to that. They're on Bandcamp. If you like this, yeah, like and subscribe. Do all that good stuff. Uh, I definitely have enough material for some more episodes, so if this gets some views, um, then yeah, I'll keep doing these videos. So yeah, thank you. This is Walter Sabadeli.